How's it going? I'm Andrew Dini, that is,
Michael David here.
and
My name is Elizabeth Fontenot.
we're interviewing Anthony Dini. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, Anthony Dini. I'm a current owner at RPM's DJ Service and Productions. I have been general managers of several different businesses over the years of my career, both on the ownership side and just management of. And it's been an interesting ride in my career. Kind of all different kind of animals, but they all kind of come back to hospitality in some form or fashion, mostly. And it's good to be able to share some knowledge and information with you guys on what it's like.
Cool. Why don't you give us a little rundown of what you do for RPM's DJ service right now?
So I am the current owner, and I take on the management slash CEO position. Not only do I perform during events that we hold, but I'm the tech person and the payroll guy and the customer complaint area. You know how that goes. So hold many hats, but I purchased the business a few years ago from my predecessor who I had worked with. And it was just the right kind of progression for the business. So.
Cool. All right, Michael, why don't you start us off with some questions?
All right, so just looking at your profile, I seen you had like a lot of different business that you, like you said, you ran and managed. So one of the questions I had was like, how did you adapt your leadership style to like the different environments?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, I can tell you that there's a difference when you're the leader of a company and you're the person that owns it versus a person that's running the company or running a big piece of the company and it's somebody else's capital at risk, right? So the adaptation, a big part of it is when you go from one to the other is understanding that one day you're acting like, one day you're the owner, right? And whatever decision you make, it is your pocketbook that's on the line. That it's your money you're risking. On the other side, it's somebody else's. Now they could give you direction, right? Whether we should be kind of making those risks so that we can get the higher reward, or we're kind of holding back. But it's all the same in the end, because when you're not the owner, but you're the, let's say, general manager or a high up manager, you still take what that business to heart. So it's success or it's not non-success still hurts you as a person, because when you're in those roles, you're putting your name behind it, even though it may not be yours. So there's not much of a difference between the two, because if you're really doing the job the way it should be done, you should be treating it as if it was your own,
And then,
even if it's not.
that being said, like, what is the toughest adjustment or change you have to make like over the few years?
Toughest change, having to go ask for permission, because when you're the person with the risk, when you're the owner, the only person you answer to is yourself, and maybe your employees, depending on what you're doing. But when you're not the person that owns the company, but you're the person making all the decisions pretty much, when it comes to growth or non-growth or large decisions that have a huge impact on the company, you now have to go ask for permission. And I think that's the hardest thing for somebody to go back and forth on, because your tendencies are, right, to just what do we need to do? Let's do it. When you're not the person that, put the money on the line for it, now you have to go ask for permission before you can say, let's go do it.
Yeah.
And you have to explain it. You have to, it's a lot different process. And that's probably the hardest thing, is changing your mentality from, if I think it's the right thing to do, let's do it, to, okay, I think this is the right thing to do, but I got to ask the owner first because it's going to be money or it's going to make a big impact before I, let it roll.
Having been in both of those, on both of those sides, do you prefer owning the business? Obviously, like you said, there's some pros, there's some cons, but do you prefer being the owner to where you can make the decisions rather than sometimes like being told no or not this time, or having more direction?
Yeah. I'm gonna put it to you like this, okay? I'm a firm believer in the American dream, and the American dream is that you work your way up the chain, and then eventually, hopefully, you're either in that position that you run the entire company for somebody else or maybe for stockholders, or you own it. But ultimately, most people think of the American dream as being eventually the owner, right? And so I believe that owning the company is really beneficial. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges, but it's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
And the good thing is that you can control your own destiny in most cases when you own the company. When you're running it for somebody else is ultimately going to choose your destiny. But as long as you put the work into it and you have, sound decisions and you're using the information that's given it to you, the best thing is to own it, because that's, like I said, that's the ultimate end of the American dream, right? You own a business and eventually either somebody else runs it for you and you sit back, or you sell it and you sit back, but you enjoy your retirement in the end.
Yeah.
Now, when you were running your businesses, past businesses now, were you always the sole proprietor, or were you in any partnerships, groups?
Not to the point of outside of family. So a couple of our adventures in my career have included family members, joint investments into companies, together in that sense. But otherwise, it was myself for any of the ones that we have owned or those type of things. Like I said, either close family involved or just myself.
And then as far as like including employees or any other like management, like how do you make your team feel like value or create like a nice culture for your company?
Absolutely. That kind of depends on, what business we're talking about, obviously. If I go across my career and I think about all the different jobs I had, all the different, categories of jobs that I was in. So like I said, a lot have to do with hospitality and then, some other facets of time. But first of all, you have to always make your employees feel like your door is open. They don't have to hide things from you. They don't have to, be secretive about stuff. Maybe something went wrong and, they're worried about what's going to happen. You always have to create that bond with your employees and the culture that it's okay. Accidents happen, things happen. The world turns. I mean,
Yeah.
every day is a different day. And you have to treat your employees like family. I mean, in a nutshell, that's your family away from your family, so to speak, like your home away from home.
Mm-hmm.
You're with some of your employees more hours in a week than you're with your spouse,
Yeah.
your kids, in some cases, especially. I mean, I can tell you going back to like my time at the country club and such. I mean, I oversaw 60 plus employees at any, at times. And, I treated every one of them, or tried to, right, as family. So when something was happening in their lives, they felt it was okay to tell me so that I knew what they were going through. And that's important. When it comes to having your employees trust you, it's a know, like, and trust, right? I have to get to know them. They have to get to know me. They have to find what they like in my management style and maybe what they don't like, right? And sometimes we have to talk that out. That helps create that culture, right? You can come to me. An example is an employee once came to me and says, I really don't appreciate how you, I guess the word would be like micromanage or whatever, a certain step of their job. And I said, okay, I see that. I said, what can I do to make it better for you? So what can I do that I can still do what I feel I have to do into that process, but that you can feel comfortable in doing your part? And we worked it out, right? And then the trust. Once they know me, once they find out that we can, we can like each other's positives and negatives and we can move forward, now they can trust me. So, and at the same time, I can trust them. When you get that piece of the puzzle, when you get those three pieces and they fit together, now you've created a family. And as we all know, we take care of family.
Yes.
Family is priority, right? Mm-hmm. And the rest of the pieces. So when you say, how do I make it so that people like the culture and enjoy the culture? It's because they know that they can come to me with anything, even if they need to vent about something in their life, right? Everybody needs that out. Mm-hmm. Come to me. I'm not holding it against you. My thing is if it's a problem in your life and you know that it could possibly affect your work, tell me so that I know. And then I can figure out a way that I can help you, because we're going to get through it together. We're family, we care when people go in the hospital. We care when people are sick. We care when your kids are sick, because we know that that's all weighing upon you in your regular job, right? You're sitting there doing your job and your kid's sick at home really bad. Well, if I know that, I can try to help you, or I can try to make your day easier so you can go home and take care of your loved one, because that's what's important.
Yeah. Would you say that a big part of problem solution is compromise then? Just like in the workforce, if there's something happening and someone's like, I'm not okay with this, or just they have a concern or something, the biggest thing would be talking to each other, and then so communication, and then through communication, compromise.
Correct.
What can we both do to make this situation better for both of us?
I'm going to tell you, there is not a day that goes by in any of the positions I've ever been in. Mm-hmm. Not a day that goes by that I don't have to compromise in some way. Mm-hmm. And the same thing for my staff, for my customers, for everything. Nothing in this world is perfect. So every transaction, every conversation, everything in your life, there's some kind of compromise, right? Mm-hmm. Should I hustle to class and get there early, or should I go grab this that I need from the library and then get there so I don't have to go later. You're compromising with yourself. You don't think about it, right? It's just something we have in our head, and you answer the question and you go. But it's always a compromise. Now I got to really hustle to class after I get past the library because I'm going to be late. The compromise is, are you going to stress yourself out and make that happen, or are you just going to do it the other way? You know, with customers in my current business, how are we going to compromise when, you know, there's not enough time for us to do our piece of the puzzle, like set up or whatever for a day, but they only have the room for so long. They only have this for so long. We got to figure out a compromise. We got to figure out maybe there's a way that we can not do something that takes a lot of time for setup to allow for your space time in a room like a banquet hall or something like that. So everything's a compromise. You know, when you go to the store, you're compromising, should I buy the generic brand or should I buy the real brand? The real brand tastes better, it works better, but the compromise is, well, you're kind of getting the same product. Maybe it doesn't taste the same, but it is cheaper. What are you going to do? Are you going to compromise the taste, or are you going to compromise the money? So, believe it or not, everybody in their lives, they make a decision to compromise all day long.
And then, like, what other decisions do you think have made it like an impact to becoming like who you are as a leader?
What decisions? Well, that's a tough one.
Before that, do you want to talk about like what characteristics you think make a good leader, and maybe that'll help a little bit?
Yeah, I can kind of wrap the two together probably. That would help. So, characteristics of a good leader, whether you're the entrepreneur with the money at stake or the GM or even a solid assistant manager in a role, right? First of all, you have to have confidence in yourself. If you don't have confidence in yourself, you're not going to be confident when you're talking to your employees. You're not going to be confident when you're talking to your customers. You're not going to be confident when you're talking to your boss, right? Or the owner.
Yeah.
Confidence is your key. Once you are confident that at least you know in yourself that you are fully capable of doing that job, right? Or that role. Now that leads into your decisions. Decisions like in one of my careers, I had a decision to make. And it was, do I break away from a company I had been with for a long time and go my own way, but it would take a lot of risk. The reward was good. I mean, the reward could have been great, right? So higher risk, higher reward. But there was a friendship over here, and there was a emotional attachment over here. So, I had to make that tough call to whether it was time to move on and potentially that whole scenario going away, meaning, I knew there was going to be bad feelings, right? Mm-hmm. So probably the hardest decision I've made in my careers was that one. And it turned out to somewhat work in my favor. But did I create a lot of anxiety, stress, kind of some undue pressure on other people that I felt bad about because they were family to me, and me leaving and me doing what I ended up doing had a big impact on them and what they had to do and how much work they had to do ongoing where, I felt bad about that. That was a big thing for me because I hurt my family.
Yeah.
And I come from Italian heritage. And in the Italian heritage, we protect family no matter what.
Yeah, family's family.
Yep. I don't, it doesn't matter if you did something wrong. It doesn't matter if you didn't make your right decision. We're family. We take care of it. And so the hard decisions, they're there. You make them. Some decisions you don't think are hard. They're just things you do every day. But you don't really realize how big of an impact they have. But you gotta go with your heart in the end. And like that decision that I'm talking about, it was me breaking off from a company and starting my own, and being successful at it, right? But the company I broke from, he taught me what I knew. He taught me a lot of what I knew. And so it was very hard. And it created a lot of animosity in friendships and in, the world. But at that time, I felt like that was the right decision for myself, my family, my personal family, right? And some of my staff that came with me, because I felt like it was in the best interest for them as well. So confidence in yourself, trust in what you're doing, that you're going to do it right. And that just always have in mind, no matter what you do in business. I don't care if you're a regular employee or the manager or the owner. You have to know that there's going to be challenges that you'll have to overcome. And just have confidence in your ability to look at the problem and make the very best decision you can based upon your knowledge. Sometimes it's not the right one. I don't care if you're the most educated person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen, but own it. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to own it, because that's what makes a really good person, is somebody that can obviously make decisions, be confident in what they did, and if it doesn't work out, own it.
So having accountability,
Yep.
this was my decision, so
Yep.
I'm not going to go blame others on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I made the decision to pull away. Mm-hmm. So if it went down, it was all on me. Mm. I mean, that was, that's the reality, right? Even in being an employee, you're doing your job. You do the thing every day. You know how to do it in your sleep, whatever it is. Maybe it's a construction job and you're framing houses. You do it every day. You've done it for 30 years, It's like your body just knows what to do and you just repetitiously do it. But you make a mistake. Maybe you mismeasured. Maybe something went in the wrong spot. Own it. Say, you know what? I don't know what I was doing today. I screwed that up. And you might catch a little flack for it, but at the end of the day, own it. Because to your superiors, to your owner, to your whoever, and to yourself, that's huge. That's where that know, like, trust, because I put the trust in my employees that if they do something wrong, they're not going to hide behind it. They're going to come and tell me, because they know that I know the world ain't perfect. Now, if you do something that, we can all say, right? You do something that you weren't supposed to and you knew it, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Still own it, because you probably have a good shot at, getting out of it. Not getting out of it, but, coming away with a lot better situation. But if I have to find out from somebody else, and you didn't own it, that's where, in my career, I've had problems with employees, and I've told them flat out, if you'd have just come to me, we could have fixed it. We could have stopped it. We could have whatever. Yeah, it's still a problem. but we could have handled it. But a lot of times when you don't hold yourself accountable and you don't take accountability to others, you just let it ride. It ends up hurting the business or the staff more
Yeah.
than if you just owned up to it and we can fix it or deal with it.
And I think usually when you take more accountability, there's more respect behind it, especially for the owner. If the owner says, I did this and it didn't work out and it was on me, usually I feel like they'll be more respectful than him saying, oh, well, you guys weren't working well and so that's why it didn't work out, or just not taking accountability. And like you were saying, if someone comes to you and says, like as an employee, hey, I did this, and they take responsibility, they take accountability, it's a lot easier to respect them and be like, okay, since you came to me, we know that something's wrong, and we can work together and compromise to fix it and to help each other.
Right. Absolutely. From an owner and a manager's position, no matter what I was in, I had more respect for the employees that were completely honest with me, because that's what I want. Honesty is a big thing. And like I said, we're not all perfect, but be honest with me. Can you not do that part of the job anymore? Maybe something has made it so it's harder for you and we need to change some stuff around. You made a mistake. You did it. Tell me. Because if it's if it's something that you're doing wrong, but maybe you don't realize it, we can help train you so it doesn't happen again. But when I don't know or I'm not aware, you try hiding it, you ask others, you whatever, that puts us in a bad position. That's where things get sticky, right? So always be upfront. If I can give one piece of advice, be accountable, be upfront with your superiors, and just overall create a trust and a bond that they know you're gonna, be there for them and they're gonna be there for you.
Let's get into your early career. What were some of the roles you played and the struggles you had as a young entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a good one. So, all right, you guys are all taking what, business courses? I take it. So, here's one reality. Especially in your early years, your age is always going to play a factor. So, I'm going to give you some examples of my early career and explain, what the challenges were. So I was a operations manager at a camping resort. It was family owned, but I was the operations manager at 16 years old. At 14 and 15, I was running equipment, doing things that some guys on the staff couldn't do, and they had been there years. And it wasn't the permission thing. It was the fact that I was ambitious. I was a 14-year-old ambitious kid who wanted to better myself. And of course, come on. When you were in your teens, or still are, but your younger teens, right? Doing cool stuff was great.
So fun.
Like, it was exciting. You get out there and it's like, oh, you want to drive golf carts and run people here and there? Heck yeah, I'm all in. Do you want to drive a tractor and, do work in a field and stuff like that? Like, when you're those 8, 13, 14, 15, it's like, heck yeah, I'll drive anything. You give it to me. I'm a guy. I don't care. I'll figure it out. Come on, And then you do things, and then you help do other things, and people look at you and they go, well, you're only 14, 15, we don't want to work with him. Really? Did you not just see me do what we're going to do, and I did it flawlessly?
Yeah.
What's the difference if I'm 14 or if I'm 62? As long as I can do the job and I can do it the right way,
Nothing else should matter. Yeah.
right, right. My age shouldn't matter. So at 16, so I work with, this group of people in the resort, pretty much in the outside world, right? Or in the outdoors with them. At 16, I become their boss. That was hard.
Yeah.
I had people that had been with that business for 15 or 20 years. I mean, let's face it. I got the role because I was family. I mean, I'll be honest, right?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I got it. And of course, everybody looked at me and said, wow, it's all because you're family. That's the only reason you're sitting there.
Like that term, Nepo baby.
And it seems like you had skill, but because you were family, it was a little easier to be like, well, he's family and he has the skill. So it was a little easier we trust you to make the right decisions rather than, I know you can do this, but I don't know you as well.
Right.
So it seems easier. But
So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was where I started really my career in the resort. Was I became the operations manager. Well, then all of a sudden, 2-3 years down the line, now I'm out of high school. I started online courses for college because I'm in this role now. I'm 3 years into this operations role. I'm assistant GM. Like, we're expanding. We're doing all these things. And so I says, I'm going to start college. I was going to go and get a business major, Well, I could be honest with you. That lasted like a semester and a half. Okay. And it lasted a semester and a half all because at that time I'm like, well, I'm learning so much more
from experience.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I knew how to read financials for a business at 15 years old.
Yeah.
I knew how to write checks and pay bills and negotiate with suppliers and call, staff in and do the HR functions as the operations manager. I learned all that and I wasn't even out of high school.
Yeah.
So, but every time somebody was confronted with a situation where they had to take advice from me or take a write-up from me, somebody did something really bad, we had to put it on the books. Things like that, they look at it and they go, well, how can you do that? I've been here for 15, 20 years. I know my job. I'm like, okay, but you did it wrong.
Yeah.
Or you made a huge mistake that by law I'm required, when you're in the resort world, you have the EPA, the health department, the OSHA, all these places that are constantly in the know, right? They're constantly on your property. They're constantly at your business, not in a bad way, but there's a lot of lives that come through that place in a given day or week. And their job is to make sure we're doing it safely so that the clients are safe. So you got to report things. Sorry.
Yeah.
Safety if somebody gets hurt, we got to put it on the books. That's how it works. And then we take care of you, we have the insurance, we have everybody, we take care of the problem. But the hardest thing is trying to prove to everybody that you deserve the role. At 20, it was, I was 19 going on 20 when, let me back up a second. So at 16, I was working for a place called American Parking Lot. I actually started when I was 15, but I couldn't drive yet. So, couldn't do a lot of things. But I became the assistant to the president and CEO at 15. And I couldn't drive, like I said. So I would ride with him. Mm-hmm. I'd be his note taker. He had like 3 cell phones, 4 cell phones. You guys aren't old enough to know Nextels, but we had Nextel phones. And they were like 2-way radios plus cell phones and everything all in one. And it was the coolest thing. But, he carried 3 or 4 of them. But I would ride with him and I would be dressed accordingly. I'd kind of like I am now or whatever. We'd walk in to the president of Commonwealth Edison, walk right in his office, shake his hand, talk to him. They were a customer of American Parking Lot, so they knew each other really well, blah, blah, blah. We'd walk into the boardroom for UPS for Chicago Public Schools. We'd sit there with the mayor and the head of Chicago Public Schools because at that time, American Parking Lot had the emergency contract for all 590 Chicago public schools. I'd go back to high school the next day. People go, well, what'd you do last night? Or what'd you do over the weekend? Or what did you do over break? Worked. Really? Yeah. Last Monday, I shook the hand of the president of Commonwealth Edison. No way. Yeah. Even the people that are your age. For you guys, how old are you? 19?
Yeah.
19? I'm 17. I'm about to turn 18.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm saying, you walk into a place at your age right now, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Because they look at you and they go, well, they probably don't know what they're doing. But maybe you know what you're doing, or maybe you have the ambition and the drive that's better than any of their other staff members. You could be a gold star employee for that company, but they always look at your age and they go, Or your people that work for you go, And that's the struggle I had. I was an assistant GM by the time I turned 20 at the resort. And I was assistant GM also at or assistant to the president in a big way at American Parking Lot. And both jobs were really hard because I felt like every time I got 2 steps forward, I'd go a step back because somebody would hold my age against me. And I had to learn back then, I had to learn that whole confidence role. I had to be confident in everything that I was doing. I had to be confident in every decision I was making. And numerous times, right? We had a situation back when I was 21. The general manager ended up going on leave for 6 months at the resort. So, of course, I stepped in. I was the GM. I had to do everything.
Yeah.
I did his job, my job. And at that time, we were in an expansion. So we were having construction crews everywhere. We had all this stuff going on. And I almost had a mutiny. And it was nothing that I did.
Yeah.
It was nothing that I should have done.
Yeah.
It was all about the age. Everybody thought, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know construction. He doesn't know, how to handle this or that. So they would just do it. And maybe it wasn't the way we wanted it done.
Yeah.
But they thought, we're not asking him. He don't know. How's he going to make that decision? So we had some tough talks. We had to have some heart-to-hearts with a few people that said, look, I am who I am.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. And if I make a mistake, I'll own it.
Yeah.
But if you do something that you think should be done and you don't consult me, that's on you.
Yes.
If I tell you to do it, I'll take the accountability. But if you don't come to me, you don't let me be your boss and let me support you, let me work with you and help you, I'll stand in your corner because I'm always going to stand up for my employees, but I'll also tell you when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody knows about me. I'm a straight shooter. Tell you right how it is. You did it wrong. Andrew, you did that totally wrong. You know better. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then we figure out a way to fix it. But now in that conversation, if he goes, I didn't do anything wrong, I thought I did, and he gets on his high horse and doesn't want to take accountability for, yes, I did it, and yeah, I probably shouldn't have. That's all I need. That's it. Just tell me that you acknowledge that you did something the wrong way.
Yeah.
And we'll fix it. Be confident. Because you know what? At 17, you may have the knowledge and the brain power to be an assistant GM or even a GM. They may not let you until you're 18.
Yeah.
But point being is you may have that ability. Just be confident that you do.
Yeah.
Take that confidence into your work. I see a lot of people now, a lot of teenagers that are seniors in high school that are assistant managers at fast food establishments. Why? Because they've worked there for 3 years and they know the process inside and out. And we all know that a lot of times in fast food or in hospitality, there's a lot of changeover, right?
Yeah.
People are leaving for that next job. So, all of a sudden the assistant manager job opens up. I'm 17 years old. Well, you know what? Don't let age hold you back. Take that opportunity, especially if it's kind of like, hey, you want it? Yes, I do. Be confident. Because you know what? You're going to better yourself. If you're an assistant manager at 17, 18, imagine where you are at 20. Imagine what happens if, during that time you're completing your college career and all of a sudden the GM spot for that business opens up. You may not have a master's, but you got an associate's in business and you have the work history and the knowledge that somebody else coming in doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to do all the processes. They don't know how to do all the paperwork and the other things that you learned how to do already. So if I'm a business owner and I'm looking at somebody, I don't look at their age. I look at, have they worked for us and what was their work history? Where are they at now? What have they learned? And I'm going to be perfectly honest. I know I shouldn't probably say this because we're doing a college podcast, but college doesn't mean everything to me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know what? I want to know what's in your brain. I want to know what you're confident about and what you're capable of, because that's what matters. That's what's good. I mean, yes, having knowledge about things and doing things and whatever does help you in your decision process. So don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Education is very important, but it's not everything. Your age is very important, not everything. But your experience, your drive, your ambition, that's huge. That's what you need to key on.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else comes.
You know what, that age thing really resides in me because I've done a lot of ride-alongs with you. We're going to these meetings, and people just look at me as like that dumb kid that's riding along with you. But I mean, I have more knowledge than a lot of the other people. And, it's the age is tough. It does get to me sometimes. So I completely sit with you.
I feel like what sucks about it is not only that they already think that you're dumb, but I feel like especially with what you were saying, how you were in that position and you were in a leadership position, it's like I feel like I haven't been in that position, but it feels like people are watching you to make a mistake so they can have a reason to be mad at you. Because logically, just to me, usually when you don't like someone, you're like, I'm waiting for them to make this misstep. And I feel like a lot of it comes from a sense of either inferiority or jealousy. Like, I've been here for 20 years, and this person who's half my age is already above me. And some people, they like the treat your elders with respect, have respect for adults, all that. And I feel like it's hard for them to accept that someone else is not ahead of them in life, but they're at a higher position than they are. And it took them less time and all the other stuff. But
yeah, so you have, it's unfortunate,
mm-hmm.
but yes, staff that's been there a while, even if they're not older, staff that felt like they should have got the job and you got it instead. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I faced that quite a few times. I'll give you an example. A big example is more recent in my career is when I worked at the country club. First of all, every member thought that they were your boss, and that's not true.
Yeah.
There was a corporation that owned the country club and stuff, and so we had GMs and we had everything. But I became the assistant GM before I left there, and some other stuff. But the staff that had been there forever, constantly during at least the first few months I was there, they were what I call bucking the system. I was brought in to make some changes there. Mm-hmm. I was the banquet manager. I handled every special event in the country club other than the dining room. The dining room, well, I even insisted there because the dining room manager changed hands over the time I was there and different things. So I even assisted over there. But every event that happened on the golf course, we're going to have beverages on the course today. Oh, really? Okay. Well, that comes from somebody in my department, right? But everybody had been there. It was like I was getting brought into a place where it was all family run, and now all of a sudden you're the only non-family member working there. That's how I felt. And I was brought in by the GM, and he told me, he says, look, he goes, I want you to hire some new staff. I want to shake it up a little bit. I want, we need to get back to the elegance of a country club. We're losing that. We're not, we're not there.
Yeah.
We had it. Now we don't. So I'm bringing you in. I want you to fix this for me. Okay. I says, I'm probably going to upset people along the way, for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
But he goes, we'll handle it. Okay. He had the trust in me. I trusted him that will, back me up. And it was a hard road. And it was all because I was younger than everybody. I wasn't part of the family. I wasn't a member or a member's kid, or I didn't come from a recommendation from somebody on the inner circle.
Yeah.
I was a guy that had a good resume and knew what he was doing. That's what I was, So it was a challenge. Mm-hmm. It was a big challenge. And I had to go out every day and prove myself. That's what I felt like. Every day I was there trying to prove myself to these people, day in, day out. Some people will never buy in. The people that have an open mind will always buy in. They will give you that chance, and if you prove that you can do it, that's what matters. It's creating that confidence, letting them get to know you, you get to know them. Know, like, trust.
Now, I know with a lot of the older generation, not everyone, but a lot of it is very, closed-minded, have it their way. They don't really like to open up to that younger generation, like the new technology, the new
Why change
way
a
of
tradition
doing
that's
anything.
not broken, kind of?
Yeah. And I know you definitely struggled with that. You're the young guy coming into the board meetings. Because I know, looking at your thing, you were a politician back in the day. How was that? You're a young guy.
Oh. Well, let me start by this. So, kind of a cool fact for you guys. I am still the youngest person to ever be elected to the Boone County Board.
That's cool.
I held that position for 5 years. I resigned because of a work issue in timing. Unfortunately, I switched jobs, and at first it was okay, but then the job changed it where most of the nights I needed to be at meetings, I had to work. So I had to make a decision, and I had to make a decision not for me, but for the people I represent. I represented all of District 2, and at the end of the day, I have my people in my district, you know. I have my constituents that live in my district, but I'm really on that board defending the entire county. You know, our job is to make decisions for the betterment of the county. So I sat on those boards. I sat in those boards. I was elected at 20 years old. I was sworn in. Was I sworn? I was sworn in at 21 because of how my birthday fell. But youngest to be elected. I also, to this day, was the highest vote getter in Boone County District 2 in history. So, how did I do it? Well, I had to prove myself. And I wasn't the same old, same old. I wasn't the people that had been there running the county for years. I was somebody that moved into the county. I wasn't born and raised there. Out in these areas, you know, born and raised is huge. Were you born and raised in Rockford? Were you born and raised in Boone County? Okay, well, if you weren't, you're not the same as us. You know, you're different. You're an outsider. So I was that outsider looking in going, but you got problems that you're not fixing. So my first election, my first primary, I was up against what the world calls good old boy network, right? Or so people would give them that description. And I beat their guy. I was nobody. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew me. I wasn't a big time person in any organization or club. I was a nobody. I just moved out in the area, 5 years prior. And I came out of nowhere. I ran this election and I ran a positive campaign. I had a guy that I hired at the time. His name was Glenn. And he told me, he goes, whether you're running for office or you're trying to be a manager or you're just trying to get that dream job of yours, he goes, you have to have key points. Things that you're good at or things that you think are crucial to the role, right? So when I was running, we had 4 key points. And he said, don't veer off of them. No matter what you do, no matter what questions you're asked, answer them the best of your ability, but go back to your 4 points because that's what people are going to remember. So we hit it hard. Yeah. I got past the primary. I walk on to the general election, smooth right in. But you know how I did that? Ambition. My ambition was I want to be on the board. Nobody's going to stand in my way. And that was exactly what happened. I literally walked door to door in my district. Now, I had country area too. So I literally had a driver and they drove me and I went up. We drive up to the farmhouse, go knock on the door, tell them who I was, tell them what's going on, show them that I am here for them. And to change from the old to the new was this. There was one guy. I remember him so well. I was out. It was bitter cold. I think it was like negative temperatures. Wind chill was horrible. It was blowing like crazy. But there was 3 weeks left to election day. I had a lot of ground to cover, and I could only do it on the weekends. So I worked. And I had other people that would help me, but on the weekends. I'm not going to go during the week, during the day. Nobody's home. Yeah. So I'm on the weekends. I'm banging on doors. I'm knocking on doors. Some people didn't even want to open their door because it was so cold. And I got that. And I would literally say to them, because they'd crack their door open, I'll say, well, I tell them who I was. I said, I'm going to leave this card for you that tells you a little bit about myself. If you want to talk further, my number's on there. Call me. But I understand it's cold. I get it. Yeah. I walked up to this guy's house. I knock on the door. He opens the door and he, because it's bitter cold, he's like, "Can I help you? Like, why are you standing at my door? It's 0 degrees outside." I handed him my little card I had, and I, told him who I was and told him I was running for the county board and that I, this, that, and the other thing. And I really would love to have his vote because I'm here for my constituents and for the county. And you know what he said to me? "I've lived in this county for 60 years. It was I was born and raised here. Not one time in 60 years has a candidate come to my door and asked for my vote." He goes, "Forget the weather, forget whatever." He goes, "Do I get stuff in the mail? Yeah. Do I see stuff in the paper? Yeah. If I want to go see a candidate, I have to go to something where they're at." He goes, "Nobody ever comes to me." I said, "Well, that's the difference. I want to be the person that comes to you. You have a problem? I'll come see you. I'll meet you. I'll whatever." He goes, "You know what?" He goes, "You have my vote and the rest of my family's vote." He goes, "And I'm going to make sure that everybody in my neighborhood knows that even if you don't get to their house or even if you miss them, that you were here in person, like your 2 feet on my step." And that's what I'm going to tell you. No matter if you're a regular employee or you are a assistant manager or a manager or an owner, whatever the case may be, have ambition, have confidence, and make sure it's something you like to do. We don't all like our jobs, and that's okay. Don't hate it. If you hate it, you really need to look at something different that you love or like. Because I'll tell you, when you can get into something that you like, man, you'll be lightning years ahead of everybody else, whether you're educated, not educated, whether you're of experience of a long time or not. The ambition, the confidence, and everything that you have, that will take you through your career, no matter what step.
I think we're close to the end time, right?
Yep. We got any other final questions?
I was going to say, I think the insight, what we thought was the most helpful, or I really liked the bit about confidence, and I think it's because I kind of needed to hear that, about how you need to have confidence in yourself and your abilities, because I feel like with schoolwork, with my future, with careers, I feel like I'm never confident enough, and I feel like I know I've needed to fix it, but I struggle with it, and I feel like just having it, not reassured, but like hearing it again, that's something you kind of need to be confident is a big key aspect in a lot of things, and I really like that. It was kind of helpful to me, and I think I just need to hear something like that.
And I'm only going to say something. Having to check your confidence, it's every day. Mm-hmm. I go through it. I wake up some days and I'm like, I can't do this. This is like, maybe just there's a lot of things going on in the business or there's, whatever. And it's just like, I can't do this. And I have to say to myself, be confident. You can do this. It's fine. Fix what you can. We'll live another day. We'll hit it again tomorrow. I have to be confident in myself. And that's key. Every morning, I have to make sure that I say to myself, be confident in what you're doing and be confident in yourself, and you'll be successful.
What about you, Michael? You got any?
I would say one of the biggest takeaways I took was probably like the ambition and, like you said, the confidence, because even me, I've been at a company for like 3 years, and I had an opportunity to like go out and help train new employees at other stores. I became a shift manager at another company, and given the opportunity, I've been given the opportunity, we had a conversation, do you want to move up? And it's like having that ambition, I want to move up. I'm very confident in what I'm doing. I like working with the people, the company. So yeah, I think that was a big takeaway.
Okay. Take that confidence. You're going to look at positions, and I've done it in my past, and I know people that have, given up on opportunities because they just don't think that they can do it. You know what? go for it. Don't second guess yourself, because you're going to second guess yourself one time and it could have been your stepping stone to something amazing. Have confidence. Go get it. If eventually you realize it's not for you, well, work with your manager, work with the owner, work with whoever, and see what can be done. But I'm telling you, take the step. Have confidence in yourself. Have the ability to go, you know what? I'm going to try this. I think I can do it. I'm going to have confidence that I can do it. And I'm guaranteeing you, in most cases, if you have the ambition and the confidence, you'll be successful at it. You may have to learn a lot, but you'll be successful.
Okay. One last thing before we wrap up. What is a final piece of advice you would give to a young entrepreneur today that you haven't said already?
Don't give up. If you have the passion to do something, don't give up. Be ambitious, be confident, and do not let yourself put the age restriction on. Don't bring yourself to that level. Be confident, hold yourself in that position that you can do it, and do not let your age affect it. Go for it. If that's what you want, go for it. High risk, high reward, but I'm telling you right now, when you go after something and you're ambitious about it and your heart is in it, you're going to be successful, whether it's owning a place or managing a place. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't say, I don't think I could do this. You got to try. You got to take those steps in life or you'll never go anywhere. So take the step, take the leap, be ambitious, and have fun doing it. That's the key.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you.